The bye-week conversations continue live on NewOrleans.Football. I'm Brooke Kirchhoffer alongside Mike Triplett and Nick Underhill. We're getting into some of the things that we talked about in training camp. We're going to talk about it at the end of the season, and it's a perfect time to talk about it now. What are the three biggest musts, needs, wants? Who's in the green and who's in the red at this point in the season? And, of course, Coach Nick is back with his best play so far of the season. Nick, is it a good one today?
We got to play. We got to play. That kind of illustrates a lot of things. I don't know if it's going to be a lot of people's choice for best play, but it's kind of my favorite play of the season. So we're going to get into that. We're going to break all that down, see who's in the red and the green, all that stuff. If you're in the red and you need help medically, check out Toro in the LCMC Medical Network. They'll get you right if you need to get right. And we're presented by PJ's Coffee, so make sure you check them out. And if you need a new car or a used car, check out Map Hours. That's my guy. He'll get you right. He'll get you the best car at the best price, get you in and out pain-free. So make sure you check out one of his dealerships. All right, let's hit these ads. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Are you looking for the perfect engagement ring? Look no further than Friend & Company Fine Jewelers' new engagement salon. This new area houses a wide selection of engagement rings to choose from in all cuts, sizes, and colors. Their experienced staff offer 5-star customer care to help you find the perfect ring to express your love. Visit their new engagement salon today. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the perfect ring for the perfect moment and also for the perfect person. 7713 Maple Street between Adams and Burdett Street. 504-866-5433. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Check them out at friendandcompany.com. Moe's Barbecue is located in Metairie. They have your game day needs taken care of. Whether you're tailgating or watching the Black and Gold or LSU at home with friends, Moe's has you covered. Order pulled pork, wings, ribs, sides, and more. Come in with the family for lunch and dinner as our kids' meals will please even the pickiest of eaters. Tailgating, parties at home, lunch and dinner, Moe's Barbecue will handle it all. Moe's Original Barbecue, 1101 North Causeway Boulevard between 48th and 49th Street in Metairie. Call 504-407-5333 for your catering order today. 504-407-5333. Moe's Original Barbecue in Metairie. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show.
Let's get into our lead topic presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the official jewelers of the New Orleans Saints. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers is also home to a new engagement salon. Be sure to go check out their wide selection of engagement rings. And while you're there, with it being the holiday season, ask them about their fleur-de-lis collection of earrings and necklace that you see here and that I have on now. They are specially priced for our NOF audience. All right, let's get into this lead topic. The Saints are facing the New Orleans Falcons next Sunday. The reason why I say that, if you look across the board, the people they have brought in with their front office, with their defensive coordinator, Ryan Nielsen, they've also got several players on the defense, David Onyemata, Caden Ellis, and let's not forget Kentavious Street, who also spent some time with New Orleans. So does having Ryan Nielsen now with the Falcons affect the game plan in a negative way for the Saints when they go up and face each other in Atlanta?
You're right. I mean, it is kind of a little bit like that, like a father-son type thing.
Yeah.
And if the Saints get punched in the mouth by their sons this week, it's going to be, or next week, it's going to be pretty ugly. Like you can't allow that to happen. They kind of, I almost feel like it's a must-win game. We'll get more into that next week as we talk about it, but I kind of feel like it is. I feel like it's a critical juncture for the team. Yeah, and look, I think having Ryan Nielsen there is a big advantage for the Falcons. I mean, on the flip side, there's a little bit of, you know how to go against this defense as well, but I don't know that the Saints are going to be able to go against, like, I don't know that they can take advantage of what they know. I don't even know how much of an advantage that makes for their offense to kind of know all this stuff. So, because you got to go out next, you got to call the right plays and all that stuff, and we just haven't seen that consistently enough to feel like a leg up even matters for him. So, I think it helps Atlanta a lot. Ryan Nielsen's a smart coach, and I think that he's going to kind of know their tendencies. this is a week where if you're still doing like the same stale signals and all that stuff, like someone could probably really jump on that. Like, so there's stuff that they're going to have to do to change course correct and make sure that they're doing the extra work to make sure that they don't have the kind of tendencies and tells that if we can sit here and see them, like Ryan Nielsen's going to see those in a million more things than the couple little surface things we can pick out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it can be an advantage, but it can be an advantage for both sides. So I don't know who it gives the edge to. But Nielsen doesn't necessarily know Derek Carr. So it's not like we used to get this guy in practice every day with this, but absolutely he knows this offense as well as anyone could. They're not exactly lighting things up over there on defense. They are 8th in yards per game allowed, but they're 18th in points per game allowed, 23rd in takeaways, 21st in sacks. Onyemata has 3.5. Caden Ellis has 2. They've been okay. They got, as you guys mentioned in the pregame, I can't believe we didn't talk about this sooner, but when Josh Dobbs had all those rushing yards the week before, it was, of course, against a Ryan Nielsen defense, and then he did it against a Dennis Allen defense. So they remain apparently penetrable by the running quarterbacks as well. But I'm not overwhelmingly intimidated by this Falcons defense. I think they're just kind of average.
My biggest concern, and this is something that we've talked about before, is the Saints have the same signals and offensive plays that they've had for what now, 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. That's
the big thing here is that they got to change all that stuff. You got to hide it. You got to do the extra work. You want to go tempo. You got to make sure you aren't using the same hand signals because they are going to know them. And it's not just the coach. Like you have players on the field that know them and can call them out now to other people. So there's a lot of familiarity here. So it's going to make things a little bit harder for them. And yeah, I mean, like the Falcons, they have to. That's why it's a must-win game. Like this is a team that isn't very good. Like you have to win this game. Like if you are the team that made all this investment to get better, and then you go out and you drop a game to the Falcons. We keep talking, and we've been talking about this probably for like a year now. We started this conversation last year around this time. Like it feels like they're on the edge of like like one loss could be the one that ignites it, and you never know if it's actually going to be the loss that does it. But this is a game where it feels like if you're back in that spot where things are frustrated, things are hot. Like I think everybody kind of feels the pressure and they know. And if you lose this game this week, like it's going to be a simmering pot for sure. And anything could be the thing that ignites the match. And once the match is lit, like who knows how fast the fire spreads? Like there could be gas in the air that's just waiting to combust. And you got to make sure that doesn't happen.
It just like feels like they're just teetering this line where they're trying to string together wins, but they'll have a loss. Then they'll put another couple of wins together and then a loss. It hasn't completely just bottomed out yet.
Yeah.
It's so deflating because every time you think you've made some gains, like Tyrann Mathieu had a great line. He's like, you think you fixed something. And then all those same problems come back in the third week. I don't hate that they lost at Minnesota in the grand scheme of things. It might be the best team on their entire schedule this year, Minnesota or Jacksonville. But yeah, it's just this team's trying to find momentum. I don't think you can go out of the bye week and lose a game too. I mean, realistically, if we're feeding this into a computer, I think you probably only have to go 2-1 in your 3 games against Atlanta and Tampa. But the fact that this is the first of the 3, the first time you're facing Atlanta all season, and coming out of this mire of playing probably just your worst game of the season and then having 2 weeks to stew over it. Yeah, I agree that I think it would be really hard to come back from a loss in this game.
My thing with Minnesota, though, is that, like, theoretically, good team, but, like, look, everybody thinks Josh Dobbs is great, but like if to use a baseball analogy, like his batting average on balls on play right now is probably like 800.
Sure,
and like there's going to be a crashing down. They didn't have their best player, and the player that ate him up was hurt. So no Jefferson, Hawkinson hurt, quarterback is out. Like that isn't the real, like they're supposed to be good, but like I think that team's going to come back down to earth at some point. So they get no pass from me on that. Like there's no like this isn't okay. That was a bad loss. You lost to a backup quarterback that's been traded twice this year.
Yeah. All right, it's the bye week, so it's time for some evaluations. Let's go ahead and get into who's in the green and who's in the red. And we're going to go by position groups. Let's go ahead and start with the wide receivers. The reason why I want to start with them is because it has been, in my opinion, one of the more roller coaster rides.
It's the hardest one on this list.
This position group has been in. Now, our evaluation 3 games in is most likely different than our evaluation now 10 games in? 10 games. Gosh, it doesn't even feel like 10 games. 10 games in this season, even though it's been slow and a little frustrating for fans at 5-5, it still seems like it's been like that getting to week 10.
It's funny. I mean, this was one of the ones that I wrote down green quickly. Like
on the wide receivers?
It was one of the only ones that I didn't. And I mean, Look, I know there's been like some weird stuff with Olave or whatever, but like he's still on pace for 1,100 yards. Shaheed's on pace for 892 yards. Mike Thomas is on pace for, I can't read my handwriting, 876 or 816. Like this is a group that's like, I think, putting up numbers and doing fairly well overall. I think some of the stuff that stands out is because of just general frustration with the offense, like overall, and things being like so hard. So every missed opportunity feels like like you're kind of like focused in on it. But I think Olave's having normal growing pains for a second-year player. Shaheed's, I think there's work to be done in the playbook, but at this point you're in week 10 and that's not getting fixed. I'm beyond blaming him, and I'm blaming the infrastructure around him at this point. Like someone needs to make sure that he's like all the way locked in so he can do everything he needs to do. And I think Mike Thomas is having a good year. Like I just think he hasn't been targeted enough. So I feel like this group is, if you end the season with 1,100, 800, 800, like that's a pretty good season for that group of skill players. I feel like they met the mark.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't write down green quickly. Like I said, this is the toughest one for me. This is the only one I didn't have an answer for. Like I was like, I was leaning toward green because they've been the best players on the team. I mean, there were 2 games where Rashid Shaheed was the MVP of the game. There were a couple times where Chris Olave did amazing things. We've talked about how steady Mike has been, how good he's been for this team. But if we were also saying which unit has underachieved the most, they're a candidate for that too. It's the most talented group on it's secondary and receiver, I think, are the 2 most talented groups. And the Saints definitely are not getting enough out of these guys. They're not getting enough consistency. They're not using Mike Thomas enough. Chris Olave has disappeared a couple times. Derek Carr and these guys have struggled to get on the same page. And that was obviously a huge talking point still like 8 weeks into the season. So I think it's an underachieving group, but I think it's one of the best groups on the team. So I guess it really depends where you attack this from.
All right, let's get to the quarterback.
Well, yeah, you're answering every single one of these. So like, let's red or green, red or green, red or green.
So I also, since I put this together, we also have yellow if they're in the middle.
No, we never had yellow.
Yes, we do.
Oh,
yes,
she just
we
made
do.
that up when you put her on the spot.
This thing literally said red or green. There was no yellow option. There was no yellow option. It is red or it is green.
I feel like I've been really disappointed with the wide receivers, and some of it's not to their fault. Michael Thomas getting injured, if he's out next week, like that puts this position group closer to the red with Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. Yeah, Chris Olave had a better game. Rashid Shaheed is he's been flip-flopping whether or not he's been able to get. A lot of this, too, goes back to the quarterback. Are you getting fed the ball? We saw Jameis Winston have no problem feeding Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, so it kind of goes hand in hand with quarterback and wide receivers. I feel like I can't put them in the red, but I can't put them in the green. But if I have to pick one, I'm like closer to green than I am red.
Let's talk on the 1 point real quick, just quickly through it. Was like Olave coming to life with Jameis anything that comes into consideration if you're talking about
It's something you have to be mindful of. Why did his body language change? Why did it seem like he looked like he was going to get the ball? I mean, I understand you're not going to get the ball on every single play, but it's the NFL. You should look like you are running a route and trying to fake a defender like you are going to get the ball. That, to me, has been the biggest knock on Chris Olave is fans can see it. You can watch. It's not just us watching from the press box view. You can watch it from TV where you see Chris Olave when he's going 100% or 50% on a route.
That doesn't necessarily mean Jameis is a better quarterback for him than Carr, though. But it should open your eyes to approach, because early in the season, the most exciting this team showed us was Derek Carr throwing some deep down the field passes and giving Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave a chance to win. I mean, Olave, the 2 one-handed catches he made early in the season, the basically quarterbacks or receivers intercepting passes by going up over. I think it should be an eye opener for Derek Carr and Pete Carmichael. Give my guys a chance to win a little bit more too, because that's something they thrive on, and when they finally get these chances, they're exploiting them.
Is quarterback next?
Yeah.
All right, let me go to quarterback because I don't want to. I got a point that I want to make. Yeah. It's going to overlap on it. So I'm going red on quarterback, and because I just don't feel like they've been consistent enough on it. And one of the things is the most maddening thing to me about watching Derek Carr is that like there's this penchant for taking shots down the field, but there's like also a penchant for not throwing the ball quick enough when they're open down the field. And there were so many of these, like you go through the game, in this last game, there were a handful of them, like they're there quickly and he's not seeing them and he's not getting the ball out. But then it's like you want to take these shots down the field, and the degree of difficulty on the throws is like insane sometimes. And the players are making the plays a lot of time. Like Mike Thomas has, like, if you go through like NGS in Olave, Mike Thomas, like some of the most improbable catches of the season, like there are a litany of Saints in that thing. And it's just like some of these throws don't have to be that hard. If it's coming out quicker, it's coming out earlier, you're seeing it. And there are these shots down the field and they aren't getting hit.
And my biggest frustration with Derek Carr that kind of goes hand in hand with that is all the times he does take shots down the field. I mean, he's done that in his history. He's done that a little bit this season. But there's so many times where he's settling for that check down right away, like almost like he's predetermined that he's going for the check down. And you're watching and you're like, while he's in the motion of instantly throwing to Alvin Kamara, Olave and Shaheed are both winning on the outside, or Olave and Michael Thomas are both winning on the side. There's been a lot of times where I don't think he's so you say sometimes he's waiting too long, but I think there's also a ton of cases where he's not giving the play time to develop. But either way, he's not giving those receivers.
I mean, on the throws down the field, yeah, like sometimes he doesn't let them develop at all, but like sometimes.
But there are sometimes where he has the ball, and you sent me the play too, and Rashid Shaheed is literally like jumping and like, give me the ball, and it's like, God, how frustrating. Like, if I'm the offensive coordinator or anybody on the sideline that is watching this happen, like, I'm tearing into somebody. Like, that's so frustrating that these guys are getting open, and sometimes they're wide open. It's like, Derek, just look. Like, I don't understand some of the decisions he's making.
A tiny bit hypocritical because, like, through all these years of not all these years, the last couple of years with Jameis, that was my biggest criticism of Jameis, is sometimes he should just take the free 7-yard pass. Like, if they drew up, that's what Drew Brees did for 20 years. They drew up a 7-yard pass, and the guy was, and he saw off coverage. He's like, I'm going to go throw the 7-yard pass. So I don't hate it in principle, but Derek Carr is losing these receivers who we just agreed are some of the most talented players of the team. They're getting frustrated. They're not taking advantage of them. So that is on Derek Carr, that's on Pete Carmichael to figure out how can we take advantage of these special weapons we have in this position group more. I think it's one of the top priorities of the offseason. I also have quarterback in the red.
I mean, Drew physically couldn't throw a 30-yard pass, so that's part of it. And then the second thing is that sometimes the check down is the right decision, and sometimes it's the wrong decision. Not all check downs are good, and not all check downs are bad. Like they're all different. So sometimes you got to let the play develop, and if you got to read the coverage, and it's like, oh, this guy's going to come open on this potentially, you got to give it a chance to come open. So, I mean, I think there is just an element of losing the receivers a little bit.
Yep. All right, Derek Carr's in the red. We have Taysom Hill. Yeah, for me too. We have Taysom Hill in our graphic.
Is he his own position?
So that's what.
What is he?
Let's just since he's in this graphic, Taysom Hill's in the green, I think, for all of us, right?
Yeah, Taysom's position is green.
We talked ad nauseum about him yesterday, too.
People who play a variety of positions are in the green. Taysom and Colin Saunders.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Colin's a little red.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to tight ends. For me, tight ends are in the green based on what this team has asked of them to start the season. If we're looking at this position group for the first 10 games, for the first 3-4 games into this season, tight ends weren't used a whole lot. It's because they were used in pass protection off to the left side of the offensive line so often. And to me, that's why we didn't get to see Juwan Johnson. That's why Juwan Johnson had that early injury. And now we're wanting to see these tight ends get more involved. But I feel like the tight ends lost so much time with the new quarterback in the system and not being able to build off of the chemistry they built in training camp. I don't think I'm not putting it on the tight ends as to why they have not been getting the ball more. We didn't even see Foster Moreau really involved in the game plan or on the field in Minnesota, but based on what the tight ends have been asked to do and handling it in pass protection, I'm putting them in the green.
They're red for me.
Yeah, I couldn't be more red. They're brick red for me.
But again, that goes back to the quarterback. Is the quarterback going to them?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. And
Juwan Johnson, I think of the two plays where he was like one in triple coverage and one in double coverage. And I think Derek Carr said in postgame, like, oh, well, we make that play in practice. And I'm like, when? Yeah. Like, are they going full speed with the defenders in practice? Because there was that was couldn't have been more of a 50-50 ball, the one that was in the end zone to Juwan Johnson.
I remember the one you're talking about. It was perfectly placed, but the defenders were all over it. Yeah.
I mean,
they created, I don't know, like the lead guy here has 115 yards. So, I mean, that position to me is it's underachieving to me. Like, you got to get more out of it.
Badly underachieving.
And it's everything goes hand in hand. It's scheme. It's, players being used, how they're being used, all that stuff. But even the blocking from that position, I think, has been, kind of a little bit, it's been spotty at times. So the run game's been bad. You aren't getting like a lot of, it's just, everything's just kind of not working how it's supposed to. And I don't necessarily blame the players, but like, I just think that you went into this season and it was like, okay, going into camp, it was like, okay, they don't really have anything at tight end. And they have Juwan and kind of nothing else, and Taysom, whatever the hell you want to call him. Like, he's a tight end, but he's not really. But so like, I don't know where you put him into that. And it was like, all right, so like they might just like use 11 personnel the whole entire season. And then it's like they bring in Foster, and Foster has a decent camp. And they bring in Jimmy, and Jimmy looks okay in camp. And now you're in the season and you're like, the tight ends have like no impact on this offense at all. And at one point we were kind of like, they could maybe be a little bit defining, maybe down in the red zone, like something like that. And it's just like, I haven't seen that yet. So, I mean, I can't go there with them. I mean, I don't have a lot of green on this list, though. So,
Nick is right. And I mean, your point is right. We don't have to blame the tight ends themselves.
It depends on how you look at it.
But there's nothing to like here. I mean, Jawan Johnson's maybe my biggest disappointment the whole season. I wrote, like he was like my big fantasy. Like I thought Jawan Johnson was going to be a big part of this offense. He hasn't. Foster Moreau has struggled. He did play in Minnesota. He had a holding penalty that killed their second drive of the game. I mean, we've noticed him for as many negative things. Jimmy Graham can't get on the field. I mean, this and the blocking that they were asked to do wasn't working because their pass protection was terrible in the first half of the season. So
I thought Jawan was going to be like Darren Waller this year, and it's just he has 97 yards. Like, and again, an injury happened. It's how you're being targeted. It's how the quarterback's seen the field. I think Jawan still has that potential. I thought he'd get on lock with this quarterback. Like, there's a lot of stuff though, like here where it's like, thought this guy would be better with the quarterback. This guy does another routes.
Yeah.
Where does the responsibility come in then at that point to get these guys going? Because like somebody
and
has
we've
to,
now seen they're running the ball in the red zone at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what we have seen up to this point. So if the tight ends are meant to be in these red zone packages, it's not looking good for them.
I'm not putting tight ends like in my top 5 things I'm blaming, but they're the effect of this.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're gonna do must needs and wants. Like, I have tight end as a want. Like it's like these guys should be able to get it going. Too. They need to be used. Like something.
Same thing we were just saying about the receivers. They're underusing them too.
You need to use Jawan somehow. Like there aren't enough targets there. There aren't enough opportunities for him there. Like. Again, he has 97 yards, but I think he could probably have 500 if like it was a priority to give him the ball. Like where like the bootlegs, where you're rolling out and kind of those plays that like Carr killed teams with Waller. Like where are those? Why aren't you using those? Because he can definitely do those. Where's the whip route that he was working on like the whole entire offseason? Like we haven't seen that. Where's the seam? We saw like 2 the whole entire year. So like you do have to find the way to get him going because what we saw, like the connection during camp wasn't like you can't fake it. It's just like it's not happening in games. So like where is it? Like why aren't you doing stuff to get to this? Like make it a priority. Call plays for Jawan. Get him the ball. Get him going because he is a good football player.
All right, moving on. Running backs, fullbacks.
It's the same story. I mean, I like the talent, and I think I have it more as a want next year. Even though I wonder if Alvin Kamara will be the team. I just mentioned the other day, Alvin Kamara is kind of quietly averaging 99 yards per game, but Jamal Williams and Kendry Miller have been non-existent. Their run blocking's been terrible. They're not making good enough use of these running backs. So this is close for me because I think Alvin's playing pretty well. But the fact that Kendry Miller and Jamal Williams production has been so disappointing, I think I got to put running backs in the red too.
It's so red, it's purple.
Yeah.
Like it's very bad for me. Like I mean, Alvin aside, like you brought in Jamal, you signed him to a 3-year, $12 million contract. He has 131 yards. Absolutely awful contract at this point. Bad signing. Like you aren't getting anything out of him. Kendry Miller, 3rd round pick, 83 yards. Like come on, like this is bad. It's real bad. The AK, like, I feel differently about next year. I think it's the year after that's the breaking point for him because I think if you get rid of him, and I know we have like a little bit different view on this, but like it's $17 million to a $1 million savings, and you would just have to really want him out of here. And like, what would be the impetus for wanting him like really, really badly out of here at that point? Because I think he is still performing. So like, it would have to be like, we just don't want this dude here, and I don't see a reason why you would reach that point with him yet. So I think that's maybe 1 year away. You could always, there's a June 1st, split it up, whatever. But like, I think it's a year away. It should be because he's still a productive player. Like, if you do the C-Mac trade with Alvin, he's going somewhere and he's lighting it up. Like the stuff that's happening right now, the low yardage carries, like all that stuff. Like you've mentioned, he's still very effective in the passing game, but like, the kind of like it's like, man, there's like something more here. Like you would get something more. Send him to Buffalo. Like he's gonna light it up. Like
he needs a spark. He needs a quarterback that's confident. He needs a play caller that's confident. It almost is like he misses having. Say what you want about Sean Payton, but when Alvin got to work with Sean Payton, Alvin had a voice and they were able to kind of just light it up in games. And also on the sidelines, there was always some sort of like fire going on with the offense.
It's
and
funny
it looks
that you
like,
say that, though.
well, just not to say that Alvin looks disinterested, but it just doesn't look like the old Alvin. Like I was joking with Nick, when's the last time he was in the dome? Like even just dancing in pregame or looking like he's excited to hit the field. He's a guy who cares so much about this game. That's something you cannot deny. He is somebody who is going to know the playbook in and out. He's going to know what everybody else on the field is supposed to do, but he's also, I don't know if it's not the drive he's missing. It's the spark in this offense needing just some life.
It's funny that you say that with the Sean Payton comparison, though, because it reminds me of the first season when Mark Ingram left. Remember when all the fans thought Alvin missed Ingram, and he kind of joked and laughed about that, but he was so down that season too. That was a down season for the Saints. I think Alvin just wears his emotions on the sleeves. A lot of guys are a little more polished, and Alvin's like, this sucks. The same way we're sitting here talking. Like, Alvin knows this season is a huge disappointment, and he's not going to, his face is not going to hide that.
Everybody's in red for running backs?
Oh, yeah.
Fullbacks?
Oh, I mean,
sure.
Hold on, one more point on the running back. So it's 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row. They wanted to be a team that took shots down the field, and they wanted to be a team that run. And they don't run the ball. They're taking the shots down the field. But if you want to be a team that runs the ball and takes shots down the field, you use play action. They're the lowest in the league in play action. It is like it's like there's this like idea, like they call it parts. Like, you know, people have different parts, and like when your parts are working together, you're in harmony. Like they have their parts, and their parts are like at odds with each other, and like it's just in complete disarray, you know. And it just doesn't make sense. Like just put the parts together and make them fit, and it's so simple to see how they fit. Run the ball, use a play action, and then take a shot down the field. Like it's the roadmap is right there, and it's just like, you know, they're out here looking at an atlas, and it's like, dude, just like use Siri. Like Siri will get you there. Like it's so simple. Like just
ways,
whatever you want to do, man. Like it's just, you don't have to read a map while you're driving. Like it's just obvious. Like just get in the car, grab the wheel, and it'll just tell you what to do. Like it's all right there.
All right, offensive line.
Red. Is this the reddest one we've had yet?
It's red.
Yeah.
Don't even really need to go into it. It's red.
Yeah.
They aren't blocking well.
It's a unit that's improving. I mean, if that's one thing, like it's a unit that's played better over the last 3 weeks than it did in the first 4, 5, 6 weeks. But it's still been a big disappointment, and it's the biggest culprit in this run game that we talked about was underachieving.
The same can be said for the defensive line.
Yeah.
In the red.
If JPP gets in a game and he has one sack the first time he gets into a game, he will be among the defensive linemen top 5.
Ooh.
Just one sack.
Carl Granderson, if we were doing individual players, Carl Granderson would be one of my greenest players. Brian Brzee, like I kind of like some of the things. He's not there yet. He's part of the inconsistency
He's not an impact
but
player yet.
Feels like a good use of a late 20s draft pick, but for the most part, horribly underachieving unit, only 18 sacks all season. Part of that is their approach they've taken with this hover approach that I hate so much, but yeah, underachieving unit for sure.
This next one has been a big surprise for me. Poor tackling has just been it's been so bad to watch if you're paying attention to it. The linebackers to me are in red.
This was the hardest one on the list for me because I feel like DeMario's been really, really good. Like really, really good.
And Pete's been trending down. Pete Werner's been trending down. Just
Pete's run defense has been really good. His coverage has been poor. Like so he's like a dichotomy of like, you know, this one's tough for me. I lean a little red. On it, but like DeMario's been so good, it almost brings it to like shades of green. Like this is why I got mad at you when you said yellow, because I was like, damn, like linebacker is straight up yellow. It is like I didn't have this option, and I wrestled with this forever last night.
We can go yellow for linebacker.
No, I'm gonna lean.
We can't go yellow, Brooke.
I'm leaning red. I'm gonna have a foot in the red. But I don't know.
I'm lean
red.
green.
Yeah.
I'm lean green. I'll be the optimist on the linebackers. I agree that I wish they were getting more out of this unit. It reminds me of receivers. I also wrestled with it. Decided to go lean green. I mean, part of it is how much are we influenced by the last 2 weeks when they started getting torn up by these tight ends. And I considered Pete Werner's strength up until 2 weeks ago. He struggled in coverage against both Cole Kmet and TJ Hawkinson. But we're still talking about a defense that, despite all the bad things we just saw, top 10 in yards, top 10 in points, number 1 in turnovers. And I think Demario Davis and Pete Werner are two guys I would want starting on almost any team in the league. I mean, linebackers are a strength of this team. I don't like their depth behind those guys, but that, I mean, we think the defense is the strength of this team. Mm-hmm. I think the linebackers are the second best unit on that strong defense. Putting them in the red would just, I think, be a little recency bias for me. Halfway through the season, we thought this defense was great.
That's fair.
Number 1 in turnovers is making secondary the brightest green that is probably on this team.
Yeah, green for sure.
For sure.
All right, special teams.
Big red. Big red.
Big red.
Big red.
Are you going purple red like you said for the running backs?
Cinnamon big red. Like, yeah. Big red. Like the brand big red. Like when you're defining big red, this is big red. Yeah. That's it. Like it's obvious. It's red. I don't like the punning. Like, look, I know like it's theoretically what they're trying to do works, but at some point, and at some points the season already has burned them a little bit. So I get what they're trying to do. Logically, it makes some sense. You don't have like a great punter. You're going with this system that kind of works a little bit, but yeah, these guys up there right now, like I don't know, they don't give me the greatest level of confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not getting bonus points from the return game either. Like, I mean, I think JT Gray coming back from injury, he's kind of looked like himself. Isaac Adams made a couple plays in coverage, but no. I mean, there's not a lot of places that are bringing this grade up.
Yeah, okay. So, like, the gunners and stuff are green, but, like, the dudes putting their foot on the ball.
That's how it's been for every position group. There's, like, one guy who's somewhat green, and the majority is in red.
The punt coverage has been great. Like, they're doing what they got to do. Like, and this works because Yadam and JT Gray are so good. But it's just, you know, I don't like it. I mean, I'd rather just... I don't want to like sound like the old man, but like I'd rather go back to the traditional punting. Like this isn't, you aren't changing the game with this. Is kind of the point I'm making.
They are not. All right, because there was so much red, it gets into our topic of must, needs, and wants for next season. And just to clarify, must is you can't field a team without a certain player. Need to get better at a position. Want would be nice to have. Let's go ahead and start with everyone's must.
So defensive end and left tackle and punter are mine. Those are the ones that I feel like they must get better at. And look, punter's kind of taking a liberty here because I think you can get by with what you got because they are kind of sort of getting by with what they got right now. But for me, you got to get more pass rush. Like it's not enough. It's not good enough. You know, who knows what Peyton Turner is at this point? I'm done waiting around to find out. Like I can't go into another season with like maybe he takes the next step. Maybe it gets better. And left tackle right now, I mean, until we see Trevor Penning get into a game and play, like I don't think they've given up on him. They still think they can develop him and that they're going to rebuild his confidence and he's going to get back out there. And maybe that happens. Like I'm not necessarily closing the door on him. I'm just saying right now, if you're asking me like, what do I got to do next year? I'm over projections. Like we've spent too many years like projecting that things are going to be good. Show me something.
I wrote D down right away as my number one must. And then I wrote offensive line second. And then I realized, wait, I have to reverse the order because at least at defensive end, I think you would go into next season writing down at least in pen or pencil that Carl Granderson and Cameron Jordan are your starters. Obviously, you need to get somebody who's ready to replace Cameron Jordan. He's getting older. You need more depth there. But offensive line, I don't know who's starting at left tackle or left guard next year.
That's what I don't think
Penny hasn't shown us that he's ready. Pete's a free agent, and they want to upgrade there. Hurst is a free agent, and they want to upgrade there. That's like crisis mode, and it's such a shame that that's crisis mode when they've invested so much in it.
I'm just going to say the thing that everybody dances around because they're afraid of like offending, and it's just everybody. Yeah. You have to go into next season with someone that allows Cam to be in a lesser role.
Yeah,
you have to. Sure. Like it's he has 2 sacks. Like it's at that point.
They're 1 and 2 on
I'm
the
not
list,
burying the guy, but like you have to be at a point where like Cam can age and you aren't leaning on him as a solution. If Cam's a solution, you have a problem. Like
I mean, we've seen the drop off. It'd be one thing if he entered the season and was playing like he has in the last few years. He just isn't playing like that this year. I think a lot of that does have to go back to coaching and the way that they are coaching this new look defensive line that they talked about all of training camp. We either said it was going to work or it wasn't. And now to this point, we can really say that this new look defensive line really isn't working for the Saints.
Yeah, and it's a talent issue too, just across the board. Like they went into the season and it's going to get into the, I'll save my point, but it's going to get into the needs a little bit. So, you know, they tried to get better at some of the spots on the line and they didn't.
Go ahead. I was going to say needs must have defensive tackle, but you haven't given your must
left
yet.
Tackle, left guard, DN. I think it's
across the board. Yeah.
You believe if you go into different positions, you're getting more into the needs, but a must, man, the left side of the offensive line is just terrifying. And that was the reason why it was kind of hard for Derek Carr to get into a rhythm at the beginning of the year because they were forcing the issue with Trevor Penning. And it got to the point where it wasn't that patience was running out. It was the fact that you just weren't seeing it from the guy. Like it was get him off the field. You're trying to force something. I don't know if they go in the draft this year and try to go get a left tackle if they fall in love with somebody based on the things that we've been talking about on the college football show is they're not really developing offensive linemen like they used to at the college level. So I don't know if that's the best solution, but whatever it is, they've got to fix it because those are 3 big must. All right, let's get to need. They need to get better at what position?
They go into the draft needing to draft a left tackle, absolute abject disaster. Absolute disaster. Like absolute just.
But they are. What do you mean if?
Absolute. I mean, maybe Penning has this like turnaround. And again, I'm not counting on it at all.
I guess absolute I would be okay with the
disaster.
idea. they're going to have what? They're going to have whatever their first round pick is. They're going to have the Broncos' second round pick. They're going to have their own second round pick. I guess in theory, you could get a left guard in those kind of picks that are good enough to be your 10-year starter, and that would give Trevor Penning more time to develop. So, but either way, they
you almost got to sign a vet. You
do one or the other.
You don't have the runway anymore. You can't run it back with these like replacements. Maybe you end up re-signing Pete now. It's just an absolute disaster because they set up a succession plan. They put themselves on a path, and like it's just a complete disaster of a circumstance right now. So needs D tackle. I think Nathan Shepard's probably quietly been a little better than a lot of people think. He's made a couple plays.
It was a 1-year deal, though.
Don't think it's great, but yeah, I mean, like I'm just talking about the guys they brought in this offseason. Then I think Colin Saunders has been okay, but I think overall, like that was kind of like they went out and they're like, we're revamping DT, and it's like not that much more impactfully better. Some of the stuff due to them using the 3-man line so much, you don't really necessarily see like as many opportunities in there for a lot of guys, but and then they drafted Brzee. Like I still think that position could be better overall across the board. The reason I didn't put left guard on there is because James Hurst is still under contract, but I agree that position has to get a lot better. Like there's the whole left side of the line needs to be better. I don't know what to make a groupie yet. I put it on a need. Like I think right now, if you ask me, like I'm trying to get another kicker, but maybe he turns it around. There's ups and downs, so I'm willing to be proved wrong on that. I don't have like a super strong take. Kickoffs have been okay. And then I think he's still, like, I screamed about depth at linebacker and getting somebody in the pipeline as like a potential replacement. DeMario refuses to age, but one day he's gonna. Like, I think you need to get the replacement in there and get someone in the pipeline and just kind of start, building your depth, be a little bit better there and get someone that you can develop to play next to Pete Werner.
I have linebacker, safety, defensive tackle. Tyrann Mathieu in his 30s. Him and Marcus May will be both going into the last year of their deals next year, I think. I can't remember the length of Marcus May's deal for sure. They do have Jordan Howden, who they're developing, but it's another position that's getting older. But yeah, linebacker was first on my list of needs. Yeah, maybe I'd put defensive tackle then safety.
Yeah, I've got a DB, so can fit into the secondary role as well, punter as well as D tackle. Look, the punter situation to me is one like just move on. I think after this season, it didn't work. You tried it. If there are some of these style of punters that are in the NFL that have made it work. One was in Philadelphia for a long time, and they proved to Aaron Sipos, I believe was his name, and he had some success. But yeah, go get a new punter. All right, let's get to our wants. What would be nice to have?
Quarterback.
First one on my wants too.
What quarterback if you draft one?
It just depends where.
Jaden Daniels, of course.
I would take Jaden in a second.
Absolutely.
I would take Jaden in a second. Yeah. I really would. I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. And the more and more I hear about it, I think people like, the people that talk about him on TV are getting caught up. I think teams view him a lot higher than draft analysts do right now. And I keep seeing it. Like Matt Miller the other day, he's like, are we sure he's not a first rounder? Scouts have been talking about him as a first rounder like all year. Like I don't. Like the area scouts that scout this area are like screaming to their teams like this guy's a first round talent.
They always move way up. Will Levis was a weird situation that he fell to the second, but guys who get like how many years do we go into the Senior Bowl? Sean Payton's talking about taking Baker Mayfield with the 32nd pick. The Saints might take Pat Mahomes with the 32nd pick. If these guys are talented, they move way up, and it's like draft analysts are scared to put their name on it early. But quarterbacks move up.
It's just really
quarterbacks move up.
It just really depends on how many declare. But like if there's the right quarterback in the first round, I'm taking them, and that's just always been my philosophy. I'm a draft a quarterback every year type of guy. Like take a shot, figure it out, see if something hits because it's the only way out of hell. Like it really is. Like
so, we all have quarterback as one of our wants.
I got wide receiver as a want. Just keep adding to it. Keep getting people in the pipeline. Keep developing whatever. They might be okay there. Depending on what AT Perry is. I got tight end as a want and. It's insane, but I got running back on there as a want.
Well, it depends on their future plans for Alvin Kamara. Like you're right that maybe they will keep him for one more year, but that's the last year. Both his age and
they'd have
the contract that has like a balloon payment waiting for it. It seems like they tried to draft his future replacement already.
Yeah, the running back situation has really been the one that. It's been super frustrating. They expected a lot from Kendre Miller, obviously expected a lot from Jamal Williams based on what he did last year. Do you see a situation where both of them are not on the team next year?
Who? Jamal? I think they're probably tied to him at this point a little bit with the contract. But I'm going back to the well if I got to. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that you got anyone. Like, if Alvin moves on, I don't know if you got anyone that's like ready to do it. Like, the craziest thing about Alvin, and this is probably more of an offseason conversation, is that like if you look at how their offense has operated the last few years, they legitimately took this guy out of the Hall of Fame. Like, they legitimately took him out of the Hall of Fame with what they let the offense become. And it's kind of one of the biggest shames ever. Like, Mike got taken out of the Hall of Fame due to health. Alvin got taken out of the Hall of Fame, like, I think just due to how they kind of operated, because there was no doubt coming out of 20, like, everybody, dude was a Hall of Famer. Like, he was a Hall of Fame player, and I don't think he
Him
is
and
anymore.
McCaffrey were neck and neck for 4 or 5 years.
It's not his fault. Like, he's still, I don't know. I don't think he's going to end up there, and he should. And it's a huge shame.
Do you give all of your
Yeah, I mean, I
your
wrote
ones?
QB, running back, wide receiver, tight end for sure.
Yeah, we're
The
all on
only
the
thing I
same
will
page.
say about QB, we talked to Mickey Loomis the other day, and he said now this is if Derek Carr works out, which is a big if at this point, but they viewed his age as a long-term move, not they didn't consider him a 2-year Band-Aid. They think he's a guy who could start at his age 6 to 8 years, but obviously they need
Let's
better
talk
results.
about that, though.
They need better results.
Is it a mistake if they don't take quarterback seriously, though? If they have the opportunity to get one, they don't take it. Is it a mistake to view Carr as a long-term answer, or should you have your door open to any possibility right now?
I feel like you should always have your door open to if you love a quarterback in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, we had our famous Hendon Hooker. I thought they should have drafted Hendon Hooker or considered Hendon Hooker depending on their evaluation of him. But anything to me outside of the top 10 picks, I don't mind investing it at a quarterback. This team has been in quarterback limbo for 3-4 years now. They can take as many attempts at finding that as they want to.
I mean, look, at this point, like I wouldn't love Carr enough to say no. Like you got a sneaky link. Like we're out on that. Like, don't even got to be love. Like, if I got a crush on someone, like I'm out.
I'm
like
trying as many
I'm doing
times
what I
as
got to
can.
do.
Yeah.
And look, that's great if Derek Carr beats the guy out. It's great if it's a Jordan Love situation and he sits there for 5 years because the starter's doing a good job. But this team is being run into the ground because they 3 years in a row now haven't replaced Drew Brees properly. So you wait. You've got to get that right. And if they overinvest in it, great.
Yeah,
Derek
I mean,
Carr,
like, they're married, but like it can't be a loveful marriage. Like, you got to try to find love, and whatever it is, like, I'm looking at anything. Like, Jaden Daniels, if I don't love him, but I'm like, like, maybe this could go somewhere. Like, I'm gonna find out. Like, you got to find out. Like, because you don't have an answer. You don't have an answer. You don't have it. Right now, you cannot say you have a decade answer, and that should always be the goal with the quarterback, is find a decade answer. You got to find someone you can fall in love with.
I will say, since
no doubt about it.
Been such a negative, future. I don't think 10 games is enough to have a final answer on Derek Carr. And one thing that was pointed out that's both good and bad is that he has struggled in his first year with every new offensive system. He struggled in his first year with Gruden before he then had his best years with Gruden. So there is time for Carr to turn it around, but right now he has not locked the door on that position.
Yeah, that's the soft side. Yeah, he could change the narrative. They could find a way to like make it work or whatever. But like, man, until I haven't seen it.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. Very heavy first block, but we still got plenty more after the break. We'll be right back.
Score big with the kickoff combo at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Each comes with fried shrimp, garlic herb fries, and your choice of soft-shelled crab, our famous thin-fried catfish, or traditional catfish, starting at $10.99 at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
No loan payments for 90 days with local financing from Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union on your next auto, boat, RV, ATV, or motorcycle. That's right, no loan payments for 90 days when you close your loan by December 31st. Jefferson Financial offers easy-to-use online applications, fast decisions, and local personalized service. The financial products you want with the convenience you deserve. We are Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA.
At Turo, we were born for moments like this. From bringing new bundles of joy into the world to delivering what new mothers need to stay healthy. Born to keep hearts beating strong and to keep seniors active and healthy for years to come. Because at Turo, we deliver more than babies. From heart care to cancer care and newborns to seniors, at Turo, we're born to care.
Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge. Or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
I'll take a New Orleans Saints scratch up. Play New Orleans Saints from the lottery. Just scratch, fold, and punch your way to winnings. Punch your ticket with New Orleans Saints. Win up to $100,000. Enter our second chance drawings, giving you a season to smile.
Welcome back to the Turo Hospital Studio. Let's get to our moment of the day presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Can the Saints win the division if they sweep the Falcons?
Yes, they can. And I think they probably need to a little bit. You know, I think they got to take advantage of the winnable games. It's a winnable game. If they sweep the Falcons, I mean, I think a lot of stuff falls into place. This might be a division where you only need 8 wins, so then they're 1 away. So just pick another one after that, and that might be all you need.
Like I said, math-wise, I think probably you need to win 2 out of 3 against the Falcons and the Buccaneers. If you're 9-8, if you sweep all 3 of those teams, then 8-9 might get it done. But those are the 3 most important games on the schedule for sure.
All right, Coach Nick is back with our money play presented by Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. This one's a little different. Nick went through all of the offensive plays up to this point in the season and picked out the best. All right, what you got?
I don't know if it's the best, and this isn't meant to be like sarcastic or anything like that. I just found a play that kind of incorporated a lot of the different stuff that we're talking about.
All right.
So I wanted to find a play like just where they use motion, where it made an easy read and it kind of opened things up a little bit. This is just a little 8-yard slant. It's really not a big deal. Like, there's definitely better plays out there. I mean, there's a handful. You want to do most spectacular catch, whatever. But I just went through and I wanted to find something that kind of like, you know, spoke to a lot of the stuff that we preach about on here. You got Shaheed here, runs this route. Mike runs here. You got Taysom kind of going up, running a corner. And then you got Olave here. He motions over and then just hits the slant. And you got Alvin coming out here. And you get your little 3-level read over there. And
There's so much talent on this offense.
Yeah. And you'll see
Makes it so frustrating.
here, things kind of shift. Now let's go back. You got the linebackers here. Then you come over. You got the motion with Olave, and you can see the linebacker shift. So you now have Devin Lloyd, who runs a 4.66 40-yard dash on Chris Olave, who runs a 4.26. You don't need to be a math major, but you got a pretty significant advantage there on that. So that's kind of what you're looking for. And you can kind of tell right away what the coverage is. So you have like a predetermined read, like just kind of right off the top. So it looks to me like they're in cover 4. So let me see what we got on the next slide. Yeah, this will be better to kind of show that. So you got the cornerback here. Whoop. You got a cornerback here, safety, corner, and then you got your linebackers there. So this guy's responsibility is to the flat. This guy has the, the middle hook, and his job is kind of like to wall off anything over the middle. This guy goes to the flat. Cornerback, in the most basic sense, cover 4, you kind of get your field in the quarters like that. That's why they call it quarters coverage. So this guy's responsibility here is kind of to attack the out and curl. Same thing over here. And your free safety read, he goes to his second read, kind of attacks the flatter drag coming down. If that's not there, you double number 1. And it's just kind of the same thing, overall. So everybody kind of has their quarter. That's kind of how you go about it. You get a double here if he doesn't have anything to attack. You get a double here if he doesn't have anything to attack. And, this is one of the coverages that people like for run defense, too. It's become a little bit more popular over the last few years because you can kind of get these guys coming down to attack the run. And, again, right here, like right away, Olave coming off the line, you're just outmatched. Like, just look at the positions. Like, this is an extremely athletic linebacker, but he is a linebacker, and this is one of the fastest wide receivers in the league. So, just right off the line, Carr knows exactly where he's looking. Predetermined read, bang. You're going to have that. He's going to beat him on that every single time. Look at the rest of the field. Like, there's nothing to be mad about. Maybe you have Alvin here. But I don't like this ball here to get more yards than kind of what you're getting over the middle. Like he's gonna have to get it, kind of have to run it out. So this is a right decision the whole way. Like predetermined read motion, you know where you're going with the ball, makes things easier for him, and just an easy win right there. And we saw this last week with Minnesota. Like there was a lot of stuff they did that just made things so much easier for Josh Dobbs. He didn't have to sit back and read the defense on every single play. You can just use a little bit of motion. You get some guys moving, and just right away, right off the jump, like you're gonna have a matchup. Just use a little motion. You motion them over. If you got it, quick read, bang, you got it. That's how you move the ball in the red zone. Make things easier for him. Your quarterback now, who's been pressing, throughout the whole entire season, making plays down here. He doesn't have to sit back here and do a whole lot. Like it's just the job is done for him through coaching, and coaching makes his life easier. So just move him over, bang, get a little slant, and that's just a very easy play for them to make.
Where did Olave get?
8 yards.
8 yards.
Yeah.
Nick picking a play in the red zone was the biggest upset of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to find one where they just kind of, did that stuff, because I've been talking about making things a little bit easier. And that was just such an easy, it's just like, just off you go, 8 yards, easy money.
Why aren't they using it more? I mean, that's the one thing I don't understand about this coaching staff is when stuff works, the next week, like it almost just disappears from the playbook. Why?
Like things are just harder than they need to be. Like they don't have to be that hard. Like it's just,
yeah.
Everybody else is doing this stuff. And I know like every time we ask them, they're like, yeah, like it's just got to fit, da-da-da. Like everybody else is making it work. Like everybody else does it. Everybody else makes it work. You just saw it. Like you just saw it last week. Like if you can make things, everybody's doing predetermined things for their quarterbacks now. And like it's making life easier. And it's just, it allows for the transition. Like offenses in the NFL have become more like collegeized or whatever. Like, but like, so things are just, it's kind of like the coach kind of makes things happen for the quarterback, and a lot more guys have success because of it. And you see it with Josh Allen now. Like he had a coach that like made things easier for him. They made his reads easier. He didn't have to sit back and make every single decision. And then they kind of got away from that a little bit, and they're struggling. Their OC gets fired. Joe Brady. I don't know. This is probably like, I didn't think Joe Brady was ever going to get another chance to be an OC, and like now he might. Like he might make this work. So he gets a shot here. But yeah, I mean, just find someone that can make life easier for your offense. Like there's just so much stuff you can do to create like these predetermined reads, get tells in the defense, and then your quarterback knows where to go with the ball before the ball's ever in his hands.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our fantasy segment presented by the Louisiana Lottery. Does Michael Thomas's injury do anything to increase the value of Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed?
Yeah, I think it's a quick yes answer. Yeah. I mean, I'd be sometimes I struggle deciding whether to start Rashid Shaheed in fantasy, having one more option out of there. I think I would. I'm definitely starting Chris Olave. That plus this team having 2 weeks to be like, it's right there in front of us. How do we get our playmakers the ball? I feel like both of those guys should be better, but I've been disappointed by this offense a lot this year.
I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know. It should. The answer should be yes, but like, will it be? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's up to Derek Carr.
It's up to Derek Carr.
us.
It's up to Pete Carmichael. Like it should be, but like, will it? I don't know. I don't know. Tune in next week to find out.
And we'll get into more of that too with our matchups next week, next Friday, when we'll break down the numbers of what does their secondary look like, how do the wide receivers match up against the guys there in Atlanta. We'll be able to do a full breakdown. But the answer to this question, yes, it should. It should increase the value of Olave and Rashid. It just, can Derek Carr find them in the flow of a game? All right, now time for our Martin Wine and Spirits question of the day. Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. The question is, have we seen signs of growth for Dennis Allen as head coach being reflected on the field? If so, what?
I mean, I think he's gotten more organized. I mean, there's less penalties. There's a lot of stuff like that I think, credit where credit's due. I mean, there are a lot of talking points from last year that aren't talking points this year, and you can kind of go down the list. It's just now it's the slow starts and the inconsistency on offense. So those are the two remaining hurdles. They're the two biggest hurdles. They're the two most important hurdles. But I think like a lot of the the lower hurdles, like they've cleared them and he's gotten that stuff right. But now it's the two big ones, and we'll see. 7 games to figure it out.
Yeah, it's a tough week to ask that question because I actually think one of the best things he did last year was his stay the course kind of, I'm not going to overreact, I'm not going to make panic moves, really worked for his defense. They started slow, and he was like, no, I believe in this defense, and they finished incredibly strong. This year, however, I think a couple weeks ago we thought, no, they're making some gains. They're making some gains. That was so bad in Minnesota. Everything they were making gains in went negative that it's hard to say that. But the other thing, to his credit, is he made bold decisions in his secondary coaching staff. He's a guy whose background is in the secondary, brings in Joe Woods, brings in Marcus Robinson, and we think that area of the game is excelling. Unfortunately, the things that aren't his area of expertise have not improved.
I think a defining factor for Dennis Allen will be, what does he do with the offensive coaches? Who will be the offensive coordinator next year if Dennis Allen gets a say in it? We don't really know how many changes are going to be made by the end of the season. Them making the playoffs is definitely a thing that will put both Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael on the hot seat. We'll see what
Not making
happens,
the playoffs,
but yeah, not making the playoffs. Now they do make the playoffs. I think maybe you still make a decision with the offensive coordinator for next year, but between Dennis Allen and Mickey Loomis, I do not envy them this week. There are a lot of other NFL teams making moves around the league, specifically the Bills. A lot of people have been asking why the Saints don't make the same moves. If you go back and watch our live show after the Minnesota loss, we really break into that of why we think one or the other would help if they were to make coaching decisions. So go watch that if you have any questions on that. And the next time you guys will see us is on Tuesday. We will be live on Tuesday morning, I believe. Tuesday morning.
This Tuesday. Of the show. This is like when you're watching like a series and it's just like you get to episode 8 and then like for some reason the half-hour show just became an hour long and you're like, damn, how long is this MF? Or like what's going on? That's what we just did. But yeah, we'll be back on Tuesday.
We'll be back on Tuesday. We'll be breaking down the Saints at Falcons game. We cannot wait to be out there. Let us know if you guys are traveling to Atlanta for the game. I always love passing by the tailgates too in Atlanta. How many Saints will travel out there? It should be a good one in Atlanta next week.
Going to games? I don't know. We'll see.
But you guys enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you Tuesday.